Yes,
Hello and welcome, Gunjan. It's such a pleasure to have you as a guest. Um, Welcome to this
pleasure is
podcast.
entirely mine. I'm so excited to know that I can contribute anything at all to your superb initiative. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I'm
uh,
looking forward.
yes. So, without much ado, the first thing I would want you to tell us a little more about yourself. What do you do professionally, personally?
Acha, okay. So I am a creative entrepreneur. I've been running a boutique copywriting and content writing studio for almost 6 years now. Yeah,
6 years.
and yeah, it's been fun. We are a lean setup, small team, but we are growing and it's great fun. And especially post COVID, though, it's opened up new avenues. So I'm excited. It's growing. Personally, I'm the only parent to a 9-year-old and 9-year-old son and a dog. So it's a fun life.
Yeah. Oh,
And
and
of course, I should also mention that I am a poet by hobby. And
uh,
yeah, whenever I can practice some art, I like to do that also.
yeah, I know a little bit about that one. I enjoy your posts on Instagram. They are always thought provoking.
Yeah,
And although they are
yeah.
one or two liners, but they are always like they hit the nail on the head and they provoke you to think a little deeper on the subject, which I think is
I used to write for the longest time. I used to write. Then there were the few friends who started pushing me that you should publish them in some manner. You should let it out to the world. And I was like, I had so many reservations, but slowly I started reading up also that sometimes when you talk about your journey, it helps the others also understand or connect with you in some way. Which they may be lost in. And this the idea is not to help anybody in anything, but sometimes it's just an expression or किसी को छू गया तो nothing like it. Yeah. After all, because that's what I believe that at the end of it, we are all same. We all want the same things. We all have the same aspirations. It's just that the faces may be different, but at the heart now we are all we
yeah.
feel the same way.
It's surprising that every time I get a guest on the podcast, when they start talking, I think, "Arey, ye to mera thought hai." This is exactly what the idea behind the values workshop is. And they may say varied things, but it all boils down to sharing vulnerability, sharing our what I would term fragile strengths.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
Because the idea is not to. I remember one producer friend. I had told him I want you as a guest on my podcast. He says, "Sir, मैं अभी कहीं पहुंचा ही नहीं हूँ." I said, "इसीलिए podcast पे आ रहे हो. कहीं पहुंच गए होते तो मैं
तो
फोन
क्या?
नहीं." पहुंचे हुए
That's
लोग
true.
बहुत है दुनिया में. They just intimidate us with their stories. And you think, "अरे, this is not for me. These are like supermen and superwomen." I like I like what you said कि just that one line out there किसी को छू गई तो काम हो जाएगा. So all the
Yeah.
episodes are only that.
Yeah.
So in fact today only I am doing some work. We are nearing the 50th episode. Yours will be very close.
Wow, really?
So
Awesome. Yeah,
50
half
episodes
century.
is like
Lucky
one
me.
year.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. It is like how did I start? What did I stumble upon? And but it's there. So I was just
Exactly.
listening to some old podcast, trying to find out gems hidden here and there, just to set. We are advertising people. We like to make big news out of everything. To trying to get into that celebratory mood a week or two in advance. When I was listening to something, I was like, "Hey, man, what a revelation this is!" And genuinely, people have reached out and like every episode has 30 views, 20 views, 15 views, 40 views, 60,
Wow.
120 views, and you're like, "Hey, man, so many people have contributed in known and unknown ways, and it's not always said. We are lucky, we are writers, we can express, but sometimes I think the best expressions cannot be expressed at all.
In fact, when you're saying that, this particular guest of yours was saying कि मैं तो कहीं पहुंचा ही नहीं हूँ, so for example, what you started also, ऐसा नहीं कि you waited or are waiting to reach somewhere and then you will start something like this. वो along the way आपको जो अच्छा लगा, you kicked it off.
I know.
तो
I think in the beginning
that's
you
the
saw.
beauty of this whole thing, and that's the beauty of life also, na? That's the beauty of creativity also कि आप you can't judge it. You just pick it up and you start going with it, and it takes you into different spaces, places, directions. उसका
Yeah.
मजा ही वो है.
I
Yeah.
think somebody was talking about my creative journey. I met somebody the other day and she was praising, "Oh, creative person, writer." So I just gave her the flip side. I said, sometimes, sometimes you really do not know. You are pretending that you know everything. because the client has to feel that they are comfortable giving you the job. But internally, there is this whole that I am such a sham. I do not really know the subject. I don't know whether I will be able to do enough on the research, or do I really know. So I told her that, sometimes that doesn't go away, that feeling of inadequacy. But you trust that inadequacy, knowing that your intent is to give the best. And then you
So I'll tell you what, इसमें मेरे को दो चीजें ख्याल आ रही. So there is one part of you which is a professional person, okay, which truly believes that you have the best solution for the client, and when you're obviously listening to the person, you are coming with that approach that I know that I will give the best solution to the client. But वो बाद में ना, once you start work on it, I would agree with you that that personal thing of that inadequacy hits you. Now I'll kind of pull back a little bit. Though this is not a part of the question, but I'll just take you back to a small journey that I had as a professional person. Okay, so I landed up in the big bad world of advertising, so to say. Okay, and I'm completely the shy kind of person, completely the introvert kind of person. ऐसा मतलब मेरे को wallflower बना दो, मैं बहुत खुश हूँ. ठीक है. So I was like, अभी क्या करें? There are these bombs of talent, and I have no idea what to do, and I don't even trust my talent that much for that matter. Okay? But there was one thing that I always trusted कि यार I can work hard, I can work through the night, I can work through the day. उसमें मुझे कोई beat नहीं कर सकता है. And I was like, अगर मुझे आगे बढ़ना है, मुझे इसी strength पे आगे बढ़ना है. I'll research so much, I'll work so hard कि talent का मुझे पता नहीं, and I still don't know. And even today, whenever I take people on board now, I never evaluate them for talent. I evaluate for their attitude of whether they are willing to give it their all, चाहे वो कुछ भी हो. अभी if you can't just sit back thinking that okay, I'm talented. क्या करना है talent का लेके if you're not going to be able to put it together. So when you're saying that inadequacy, it's really hitting me because it does creep in. Obviously it creeps in every time, it creeps in. But that's the thing that I tell myself, let me research further, let me learn further, let me find out further, and then let's see what emerges from there. And it's something that ab na aadat ho gayi hai. Pehle it used to be like, oh my god, I'm just not good enough, I'm just not talented enough. But slowly I was like, aise to survive nahi ho payega. One has to find some tools and tricks and some secret weapons that you're going to use. And I was like, yeah, I think that's a good secret weapon, because that I'm confident of. I know I can burn the midnight oil, and I can do any amount of hard work anybody expects me to do and more. Like, okay, we'll work with that then, because if that works, then we'll see. And fortunately, abhi tak chal raha hai, it's going good.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think there's such a beautiful element of uh, both humility and it that fragile strength word that I just the phrase
Hmm.
that I just coined. It just gave
Hmm.
meaning to the whole thing that was running in
Hmm.
my head. That the
Hmm.
fragility is there, but you know that well the tenacity is the strength. I won't give up.
Exactly.
I'll try. I'll
Yeah.
try. I'll try. And देखते हैं क्या
Yeah.
होता है क्या होता
Yeah,
है. I
yeah.
think
Because I think वो word जो आपने inadequacy बोला ना, whether I don't know if it's a creative thing or a woman thing or a human thing, it just hits home every
the
time.
human thing.
हमेशा होता है. Like, okay, but अभी क्या करें? That is how it is.
Yeah, it's so funny you would say this because I just gone down for a cup of chai and just before the podcast, and there was somebody walking towards the that outlet. There was some snacks outlet. That guy was walking, and he was walking with a lot of confidence, like typically Bhai style walk, and three people with him, and he had a big tilak and something, and like very good walk. And I was thinking, यार मैं तो जिंदगी में ऐसा चल ही नहीं पाऊँ. मतलब I would never have that कि people look at me because of my body language. I would rather, like you said, कि yeah, wall hanging बना तो चलेगा, कोई problem नहीं. But suddenly in the public eye, the values workshop to me was, I think the biggest challenge I put myself was that you cannot do it. You will not come
Hmm.
on camera. You have no clue
Hmm.
how much pressure I was under, and I have actually cried once or twice. But I was like,
अच्छा.
I hate myself on camera. And what am I talking? How full of yourself can you be? Why are you doing this? You just want to go and brag that I'm so good. All of those things. And then I said, no, but you keep checking the intent. Keep checking the intent. What do you want?
Yes. Yes, very important word. ये intent ही है, which is the only fuel यार. It's the only fuel, because if that intent is true ना, it just shines through. Whatever you are doing with your heart, with the intent in the right place, that's the only what do you call it? that's the only straw which, kind of you can hang on to, and which will take you across. Yeah, because that's the only truth, है ना. बाकी आप काम बोलो, personally बोलो, किसी भी चीज में, even if you're in a, with a friend or a relationship or a, anything, or that work, if the intent is there in place, I think that's one check that, I have personally always done with myself, ki what is my intent in this, and whenever the intent has been right, वो हमेशा पार हुआ है, and that's
Bravo. I think wonderful. Funnily enough, what's running in my head now, oh, this is the first time I've spoken so much without getting to introduce the topic, but funnily enough, it's very close to that, but in a varied manner. The topic that came to my head today was laughing at one's own self. Yeah, laughing at yourself.
very
I
okay.
was saying, what a weird topic to think. I don't know what I'm going to speak on it, but I liked it.
Mhm.
It's a favorite phrase of mine. It's a favorite thought of mine to see myself as like, "Ye kya lallu hai yaar? You don't know this, you don't know that." Luckily, I've been born a Sardar and have grown up in a time when there was no political correctness about it. People made jokes on us. We were proud, and of course, there was this political part that came a little later due to the circumstances in the country. That it grew very religious in tone, which is not why I liked it or disliked it. I thought there is this phrase: the test of a good religion is whether it can be made a joke of. So I thought,
Really,
yeah, so I thought
it's a good one.
if not born a Sikh, I would have been very happily born a Parsi, because that's the only other religion that I really look up to, because they have the ability to laugh heartily at their own idiosyncrasies and stuff. So, making it a little more personal, how do you, since we've already set the context about introspection about one's own self, so now bringing in this aspect from that context only, since the journey is already on for this podcast, how would you see the role of taking oneself to like easygoing? It's okay if you screw up on
I'll
the.
tell you, there are two, three things that are coming to mind when I listen to laughing at one's own self. Okay. Um, See, first of all, इसको ना, it's very important that we don't see it in a negative light. अपना मजाक नहीं बना रहे हम यहाँ पे. Okay,
Hmm,
there has to be a lot of self respect first. वो self
yeah,
respect और self esteem रखते हुए one has to laugh at oneself. You know, laugh at oneself because because you can make light of a certain situation and you can come out of it stronger. Not because you want to
hide your
push
pain.
yourself down further.
Yeah.
है ना. वो कहीं ना कहीं वो सेल्फ एक्सेप्टेंस इज
So
फर्स्ट वेरी
beautiful.
इंपॉर्टेंट कि नो
Very
मैटर
beautiful.
व्हाट इट इज, एंड then there are parts of yourself that you can be proud about, parts of yourself that you can laugh about, parts of yourself that then you're accepting yourself completely, है ना. तो इसको एक नेगेटिव तरीके से ना देखते हुए, अगर हम इसको एक लुक एट इट एज अ स्ट्रेंथ दैट आई कैन टर्न इट अराउंड एंड आई कैन talk about it. Like, I'll give you an example. मैं हमेशा इस चीज पे हंसती हूँ. तो I am obviously, if I'm good in creative, in my head, I have never been very good with the revenue side and the legal side and all that. Okay, and there are times when my project managers and my other team members who are managing that side of the business are like frustrated with me कि ये क्या है, कितनी बार आपको सुनना है ये चीज. Okay, and I'm like, अभी what अभी ये है, अभी ऐसा है तो ऐसा नहीं है, and then can we talk about this part where I'm able to laugh at that. That is one example that is coming to mind. Also, of course, there are days when things will not go your way. In that, can we have a more optimistic approach? कि अभी कुछ चीजें नहीं workout हो रही हैं, and some things are really going down the drain, then can you laugh at it and become better about it, but not in a demeaning way at all, keeping realizing your strength very well, and yet having the wisdom, if that is the right way to
And
right word rather, to laugh at yourself, because that also requires, yeah, great amount of wisdom to be able to laugh at yourself and to be able to tell yourself that इससे मैंने क्या सीखा, how can I become better tomorrow. you know that is definitely another thing that I
I
can
think
laugh
you raised a couple of good points that I absolutely didn't think of when I had that line in my mind. I was thinking it will be more jovial, but suddenly you gave it a beautiful, insightful sharing. So, which led to some insights for me as well. What do I think about it? One of the things that I find that I have been very cocky throughout my younger days, because as a writer, you're supposed to gain a lot of knowledge about everything. So
Hmm.
wherever I used to sit, I used to think everybody is a like a Dumbo compared to what I know about this subject or that subject, or uh, things and people and places and body language, and this part of the world this happens and this is pronounced like this or whatever. And I found that it was always made palatable by me
Hmm.
when I made fun of others and myself in an equal vein. So
Hmm.
I would also laugh at not knowing how to pronounce something, or sharing, like sharing vulnerabilities on values workshop is far more actually my cup of tea generally, because if I befriend you, the first thing I'll come and tell you is like कि देखो मेरी हालत खराब है, मेरे को तो ये सब नहीं आता और ये सब. I think we've spoken couple of times about jobs, and I have been once or twice. So I remember telling you, look, I can't handle this at all, and thankfully you didn't laugh. But I was ready for that also. If you were to laugh, and you're like such a senior guy, 25 years in the industry, you don't know what you're saying. I don't know this, but I am very comfortable about there are going to be subjects that you will not be able to handle, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yes, you can
Hmm.
laugh. Like I like the fact that you said that your project managers who are working for you laugh at you, and you
Hmm.
in turn laugh at yourself.
Laugh with them. अभी मेरे को पता ही है वो laughable है तो मैं क्या बोलूँ उस पे. There's nothing
Ah,
else to.
so
I think it's also coming from one. Sorry, I'm just able to
please.
remember something. So you were earlier saying about this Parsi example, right? I think they come from a whole lot of self acceptance, and that's why that spirit is correct. वो कभी खुद को demean नहीं करेंगे in the laughter. They will laugh with you, and because they know that certain things are laughable about them, just as much certain things are are very solid about them, and hence I think that really goes a long way. Then that laughter is in the right spirit when you are able to completely accept yourself, as against say a very young person who's still yet to accept himself or herself fully. Like you're a teen or your early 20s, if you want to say, it's a factor of the age that you know at least for me it took a while to come to my own, because you're not born with it. At least I wasn't born with it. You go through ups and downs, and certain things you think that, oh my god, ये horrible है मेरे बारे में, या ये बहुत अच्छा है मेरे बारे में. But it takes a while for you to come to a complete acceptance, and then you can truly genuinely laugh at yourself. And unless otherwise, at a very, say, a very early age, or when you're growing up, or when you're not still sure of yourself, it can hurt also. If somebody is laughing at you, obviously it will first hurt only, क्योंकि
Yeah,
अभी
it
तक
does.
you're still in that growth stage ना, you're still accepting yourself completely.
Yeah.